Hey guys, Sharpie here again. We're gonna go ahead and continue our tutorial slash beginner's guide for the NPC creator. I'm gonna go over a couple things that I didn't cover in the previous one and a couple things that I should have. But before we get started, first off, just wanted to give a shout out to the original group of people that were helping years ago placing the NPCs. And Eric McAllister just wanted to let you know that it's safe to come back now. No more having to manually input hex values and having your game crash every 6 minutes and losing the work, and all the frustration is pretty much gone. There's still some bugs, obviously, but it is nothing like it was, and this would seem like a Christmas gift at this point, and we could definitely use the help. But let's just get down to things. And first thing I wanted to show you is a feature called calling NPCs. So if you had a couple, and this is just a camp that I set up, the last part of Sea Lions that I completed. If you had these, say this cultist and this brigand, and we wanted them to not be here. We needed to move them somewhere. And you could actually move them even to different worlds or different zones. You would come over here to call NPCs. And now when we call it, it will be removed from here and put into this list. So we could call the cultist. And we can call the brigand. And then we can just drop them, once again, wherever you are, wherever you're facing. And there's the cultist. And there's the brigand. So it's a really nice feature. It makes it really easy to move things around, especially if we happen to overpopulate an area and we need to just get some things out of there and reuse it someplace else in the world. So that's a great feature. Another really nice one that I didn't show last time was if you put something in someplace and you just want to move them without using the XYZ, without using this and moving them manually this way, we've got summon target. So here we've got our brigand, and if we wanted to put him back where he was, which was just somewhere in here. And one other thing just to keep in mind, just for aesthetics, when you're placing NPCs, kind of think about where they are, why they're there, what would be their purpose, and even things like how far away from the wall are they, where they're standing. We don't want them, 15 feet out from the wall. Just wouldn't make any sense if he's a guard. So let's say we want him right here. So he's over there. Now we can summon target. And there you go. Comes right to where you are. Same thing with the cultist. We can put him back, or actually I think it's a her. I believe I had her somewhere in here. It's not going to matter. I'm not saving this. I already had it set up the way I wanted. But now we've got her. And actually, let's go back to the lion guard. He's been moved, so we'll update him. We'll go back to her and summon target. Update. And now right back. Oh, it was a guy. Okay. So that's just another easy way of moving things around. Makes things, very, very simple. One other thing I didn't go over was the armor tab. Now if we take a look here, we've got our guy. We can go to customize. And here's our armor tab. And this will allow you to basically give them whatever you want. Now I've got a robe on him right now, so I wonder, here, we'll just hit with no armor and see if it strips him. Yeah. Alright, update. So now we can see what we've got here. So if you needed to be in full chain, there we go. In full chain now. If you didn't want him to have a helmet, we can come over to head and we can go default. That'll get rid of the helmet. We could go ahead and get rid of the legs if we wanted to. There we go. No more leggings. And if you want to get robes back on them, this is just like the mob models were. These are your types of your armor types by row, and then these would be the individual pieces of that type of armor. Now, I just happen to know that cloaks are the very last one. So there, that would put the cloak back on just like it was, and he still has his chain. I believe we only have 4 different cloaks in right now. And that may actually be all of them. I'm not sure if there's any models that they're missing or not. But just one more way of customizing them. Then the other thing you can customize, I'll just update just for the heck of it, is all the facial features. That was here. Now this is, I wouldn't say it's glitchy because it's not glitchy. It just wasn't, they didn't want to take the time to put all the models in. For every race and every gender, there's 4 options of each one of these. They went ahead and they put in like 400 of the models for the facial stuff. It was going to be like 1,600 if they wanted to do them all, and they just didn't get to that point where they went ahead and pulled them all in yet. So some things will go weird, but if you know you're creating how it was when you were creating, your hairstyle was always bald, and then you had, facial 1, facial 2, got a beard. This one had an eye patch, and all that worked just fine. Now, if you get into hair length, oh, this actually is updating properly. Oh, he did it. Okay, never mind. These have all been added in. My mistake. I thought they were changed. And there's all your different hair colors. You can update him. And now he's all set up if that's how it was supposed to have been. Or best guess of how we think it was supposed to have been. So this was just a couple of those things that I missed on the original one, or the original video. And now some kind of quality of life things. If you want to get around, easiest way to do it is by teleporting. And if we go to, here we have our world map. Now, everything is in a grid. We've got columns first and then rows. So if we wanted to, we just go to teleport. Let's see, we can go to Terraria. If we wanted to go up to permafrost, it's going to be in the first one. Right there it is. Permafrost, Centaur's Keep. We'll just go ahead and go to permafrost. Click it. It's got your destination. Hit teleport. And off you go. Makes it very easy to get around. A lot of them go to starting towns. Then others just will go to like the middle of the zone, that type of thing. And actually, I forgot to show you something back where I was, but we can do it here. So here's permafrost, and boy, it is quite laggy out here. There we go. Now, what we are having to do, like I mentioned on the previous video, is we need 23 NPCs in each subzone of these. And here you can actually see the grid. So we've got the 9 subzones. So we are in Central right now. So let's go ahead and head to West. I just wanted to show you how I'm going about setting these up. Now these are your distance to borders. So this is going to show you how far you got to go until this is going to switch over to west. And so north, south, east, west. So what I've been wanting to do is if we have a zone, or a subzone I should say, that there's just nothing out there. It's not populated at all right now. And there we switched over to west. I want to set these groups of 23 in the middle of the zone just to make it easier. Oh, I might not actually be able to do that here. It's because the middle of the zone is going to be in the ocean. Well, we can do as good as we can. We'll at least go middle, top to bottom, we'll say. So that's about as close as we can get this way. But then north to south, come up. Just, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just something close. There. See, that's good enough. That'll, you know, we'll be able to find the group. So then you would just want to figure out what types of wildlife would have been in this zone. It's generally not too difficult to figure out, or at least get a pretty good idea. There's so many videos of just people running through areas that you can spot the models and you can kind of figure out what was supposed to be here. But what we'll do is we'll just go into creation, and this is another way of getting things to where you are. If we go into creation and we go into database, then we can pick things from the database to pull to here. So let's see if we have rats. Okay, we've got grave rats, water rats, tavern rats, rotting rat, yeah. Okay, it's not going to matter, it's just for demonstration. So here we're going to pick a chaos rat, and we are going to spawn him. And there we go. Now we've got a chaos rat. And still not sure 100% if we have to do this, but I still like to update the database whenever possible. So if we needed 23 out here, and we will say there was 4 different types of mobs. Let's see what we have for bats. Here's the bull ash bats that are in Freeport. Back to creation, database, still selected. Spawn NPC. There's our bull ash bat. Here we'll grab a grass snake. Creation. Spawn NPC. There's our grass snake. And let's see if there's any fireflies around anywhere. Okay, here's some fireflies. And we will spawn him. Alright, so we've got our 4 types of mobs, excuse me, which seems to be kind of standard. There just seems to be like 3 to 4 mob types per zone. And all we want to do is just duplicate these guys. So we'll stay on creation and customize. So we're going to need 23. So 6 of each would be 24. It doesn't matter. You can drop 24 in if need be. Or just if you have an area here, and let's say there was a small camp, and there were eight mobs at that camp. Well, now you only need 15. So just adjust accordingly, just to make sure there's 23 in here. But just for this sake of things, here, we'll move this over. We've got our rats, so we're going to do 6 of this guy. So there's 1. Oh, sorry, it's still on the fireflies. Okay, doesn't matter, just for demonstration. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It must have still been selected on them. And this is just running slow because the OBS recording software that's still going. So we'll grab our bats next. And I'll just put the other rats in front of the other fireflies. Same thing, creation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So there's our bats. And now we do the same thing with the grass snake. Back to creation. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then all we would need would be the rats, which would have been that guy. And we just need 5 of them. So back to creation. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives us a row of 5. So there would be our 23 NPCs, and those are what are going to be the placeholders for the mapper NPCs when we go to map the Z values. Like I said, we'll just if you're in a zone, if your job is here's your zone, here's what you're doing, and you're finding empty areas, there's no camps to populate, nothing that's going to get us up to this number. Just make sure that you do put a clump, and like I said, try and throw them towards the center. Oh, did want to do that. Towards the center of the zone, just by using these border distances. So then once the Z-value mapping is done and we come back and we're going to start doing roaming, we'll just take these and move these around to what would be a more practical way of, or a practical placement of laying out the subzone. No, so we did the world map, which you've seen. We've gone over teleporting, the facial features, the armor. The only other thing that, this is just kind of something that you just do just if you want to have some, I don't know, just be able to play with your character a little bit. You can go ahead and self-edit your character, which is why I'm wearing scale right now. And it's no different than editing anything else. You just go to the NPC creator, go to armor, and for some reason it's saying I'm wearing chain. I don't know why. I'm wearing banded. But we can just go no armor. Oh, that's scale. So you go all scale. You can switch them over to banded. Leather. However, whatever you want your little guy to look like, you're going to be the one staring at him while you're running around here for hours on end doing this stuff. And then you can change your weapons too. You can go into the weapon database. This once again set up the same way of your weapon types. And I actually haven't messed with this too much. Now here with the primaries, okay, yeah, so here's your models. So as you can see, we got X. And like all the other ones, don't go scrolling through at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You do stand a good chance of freezing it up. So like if you had an X here and you wanted to dual wield, you can just go ahead and click dual wield, and there it's going to pop it over for you. And you can update your database, and that's how your character will look, for the time you're playing around. Now, keep in mind when we send in our work to Dustin, our databases, when we get our new database back, you have to recreate your character and you'll be back to default again. So there's really no reason to go and level your character, because if you want to level your character, you just go to race and gender and you just change your level. And make him whatever you want him to be that way too. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. The only other thing that is probably really important, and it's something to keep very good track of, if you find a bug, if you've done something and something has glitched out really weird like it never would, or you've never seen it happen. You've done it 20 times and something happens out of the blue, something random. This here is the UDP log. It keeps track of all the packets that were sent and everything that happened as those packets were sent. If you do find a bug, something like that, the best thing to do is go ahead and copy your UDP, open up Notepad, and paste that in. There. So this is all the information that Dustin would need to see in order to figure out what the problem was. He understands what all these packets are and how all this works. And what I like to do is go to the very top, come up here, give yourself some space, and then this would be a great spot to go ahead and give a description of what happened. That way when he gets the file, he'll see this right off the bat at the top. He'll know what this UDP is what bug you're trying to report, and he'll have a description tied to it in case he just he loses track of what's what. And I also like to rename the file when I save this to whatever it was. So we'll hit save, and this will just be we'll just call it a test bug, and we'll save it. So, but normally I would put in here like problem spawning a mob with spawning a default NPC, or whatever your problem happened to be. Try and title the file that way. And it's also not a bad idea to throw in the date. Like here it would be 2/16/2020. It just helps him keep track of things easier, and just keep everything in order, because he can't just jump on these bugs right away. If he's got a list of them to do, he'll get to them as he gets time. The only other things to go over were some things not to do. There are some things that they will be getting fixed, but right now they are current bugs. Do not wave. Do not point, bow, any of those things. Don't do it, because what it's going to do is when you do any of these, it's sending a packet to the server, and that packet is waiting to be seen by something. And currently, that's not a function that's happening. So that packet will sit there, and it's waiting to get seen and waiting to get seen over and over and over again, and it'll crash your software. So don't do that. The other thing that's currently not working are spells. Do not cast any spells. You cast a spell, this will freeze immediately. Excuse me. So those are two of the main things not to do currently. And for all I know, they will be fixed by the time the next version of this comes out. Besides that, the only other thing that you need to keep in mind when you're doing this is if you get a zone that you're going to work on, you need to do as much research on that zone as you possibly can. Either try and find any video footage, and in the description on this video I will give you a link to a set of videos that Eric has put together, which is basically every video that he has been able to find over the past 3 years, and it is a wealth of information. There's lots of little things you can find in there. If you can't find it, he knows most of these videos like the back of his hand, and he's a great person to ask and would probably have a pretty good ability of directing you in the right to the right one, or at least to a couple maybe that he's found that are small clips or something like that. Research any quests that may have been involved with the area. That's another thing that will help you figure out what needs placed where the names were, where the quest mobs were, that type of thing. The other thing you can do is, and I don't have a ton of experience with this yet, so I can't really explain it all that great, There is a thing on the web called the Wayback Machine, and you can actually use that to, I believe it's like looking at snapshots of the different EQA forums back in those years. And from what I understand, the Wayback Machine, if you're looking at like around 2006, I think are the most stable ones, or the ones you're going to find the most information from. So that would be another tool to kind of get a little familiar with. And other than that, once again, we still need help. The only thing, not to be rude or try and discourage anybody, but if you only played for, say, 6 months or something like that, and you just don't have a great, just a great deal of time in the game, it is going to make it kind of difficult to improvise just from not having the familiarity of how things were laid out, and just being familiar with areas that you be like me personally, going to the minnows camp and just sitting there and grinding for hours and hours and hours on end. I personally, I wasn't there when the server went down, but I have over 6 years of playing, probably 10 to 12 hours a day. So I do have a relatively good knowledge, and that type of knowledge base is really the type of people we're trying to key in on, that are going to be able to help the most efficiently without doing something in a fashion that we may have to wind up just redoing after the fact. Basically just creating more work. So the more streamlined we can get it, the better. So that'll pretty much wrap it up. In the description, I'll put the link to those videos, and I'm also going to put a link to the EQA Return Home YouTube channel. You'll find lots of nice stuff there. Eric McAllister, about once a month or so, is throwing up population videos. This is the new stuff that's been done. New things have been added, so you can kind of get a feel for what's been going on and kind of keeping up to date with the progress. But other than that, we're going to cut it short here, or hopefully it was short. And hope you all have yourself a good evening, and I will try and get back with another video in a week or so. Have a great day.